When it comes to fans in a toilet room or bathroom, code's pretty simple. You need one. And whether or not that's one bathroom unit where the toilet and the shower are all in one space, you need one fan. If you actually have a separate toilet room, maybe you got a door and you have like the shower and the sinks in one area, and then you have a door that goes into the toilet room, you'd actually need two fans, one for each space. And those particular fans would need to be sized properly and then vented out to the outside. And so let's jump into the code and we'll look at what the requirements are for bath fans. I'll also jump into whole house fans a little bit as well in case you have a home project where you need to put in a whole house fan, ventilation fan. Kind of have a little bit of an idea on what the requirements are for that. And then I'll show you a few pictures that I've taken out in the field just so you have an idea kind of how things come together. They're pretty simple. You can go to just about any box store and find the fan you're looking for, and you can find the duct right there and all the requirements to put it in. They're pretty easy. But first, let's jump into sizes and we'll go through some code. So here we have bathrooms and toilet rooms. So bathrooms and toilet rooms, it's both specific rooms. It says mechanical exhaust capacity of 50 CFM intermediate or 20 CFM continuous. Any of the stores that you go to and you look for a fan, they're going to be at least 50 CFM. Most people are not going to put in a continuous fan because they don't want to listen to it running all the time. And you don't want to exhaust all the heat or all the cooling that you've paid for through your furnace or your AC unit to just get blown out through the roof if it doesn't need to. Most people are going to use intermediate and they're going to get a 50 CFM fan. For our house, we put in some that have sensors on them. And so we just leave it on all the time. And then once the moisture gets to a certain level within the bathroom, then it kicks on and it exhausts it out. It does not automatically turn on when there's stinky smells in there. But when it comes to kids, and I have young kids, and I don't want them playing with those switches all the time, so just leave it on. They get in the shower, they take a bath, it just kicks on, it turns off when the moisture's gone, and it's awesome. It's perfect. It's not overrunning. It's not running all night. So just something to think about when you're out there looking for bath fans. You might look for something with a sensor in it. So let's keep going here. So here we talk a little bit about exhaust air from bathrooms and toilet rooms shall not be recirculated within a residence or circulated to another dwelling unit and shall be exhausted directly to the outdoors. Exhaust air from bathrooms, toilet rooms, and kitchens shall not discharge into attic, crawl spaces, or other areas inside the building. Basically, you just need to take it outside. It can go through a sidewall. It can go up through and out the roof. Doesn't matter as long as it meets the requirement. So now that we know we have to have a 50 CFM fan. That's easy. We get that. We put it in the rooms that we need to put it in, and we know we have to take it all the way outside. So now we got to get duct, right? What size duct do you get? I'm going to show you a really confusing chart just because, so you have an idea what it is I'm talking about, and then I'll tell you what I would do or what you should do. So here it's talking about duct length. You can use flex duct or smooth wall duct. So you can buy just the flex duct, and you can get that at the box stores, hardware stores, with all the other, with a fan and any other equipment you need. But here it's telling you can't do a 3-inch duct for anything that's flex. And it's telling you can go up to 56 feet, if I'm reading this correctly, for a 4-inch. But just look at your installation instructions. The fans I bought, it says in there you can use a 3-inch duct and you can run it so far and you can terminate it, through a roof or through a sidewall. Just look at your installation instructions and install it per your installation instructions. And I would even look at that as far as duct connections. Does it require screws? Does it require tape? I know that on our side of things, as an inspector, we like to see 3 screws evenly placed on duct connections, and we like to see anytime you're in an unconditioned space, so up in an attic or crawl space, we like to see that seam taped as well. Where you're at or whatever your installation instructions say, they might tell you something a little bit different. At the end of the day, we just need to make sure that it's connected well. It's not going to come undone and then all of a sudden start blowing moisture into your attic, and then you get mold or other type of buildup in there that you really don't want. So we have exhaust openings. Air exhaust openings shall terminate as follows. So not less than 3 feet from property lines. So if you happen to have a house where your house is really close to the property line, your inspector might have an issue with you exhausting right out into your neighbor. So if you're only 2 or 3 feet from the property line, you might look to take it to the roof if you can, or go another direction. Not less than 3 feet from gravity air intake openings, operable windows, and doors. So if you're within 3 feet of a door or a window opening, so if you got a window, but the actual operable side of it's over 3 feet, you should be okay. If the stationary piece is within 3 feet, it can't be opened. It's not part of an opening. You should be okay. Here's the other part of this. Scroll myself back down. So it says not less than 10 feet from mechanical air intake openings, except where the exhaust opening is located not less than 3 feet above the air intake. So they're saying if it's above it, meaning it's going to exhaust and exhaust up and out, you can be within 3 feet. If not, if you're sighted or below it, they're asking you to be 10 feet. Well, what is a mechanical air intake? Well, when you get into the whole house ventilation or fresh air intake, maybe you've got a duct outside, and every time your furnace turns on, it's pulling fresh air into the house. Because you want to keep fresh air into your house. If you don't open your doors enough, maybe you're an active family and it doesn't matter. You're always opening doors and windows, you're getting fresh air into the house. But maybe you don't. Nowadays, a lot of people work from home. If you work from home, you're not opening doors and windows enough. You need that fresh air into the house. They can get it a couple different ways, though. So they can get it through a whole house fan that blows air out and then sucks air in through whatever little openings and crevices you have in your house, which is crazy to think, but there are lots of them normally. Or you push it in, fresh air. So they're just telling you if you have a fresh air intake, so it's pulling fresh air in, you don't want to then exhaust and then have it suck right back into your house. So just make sure you have your separations. And that's really like, when it comes to a bath fan, there's not a whole lot to it. Just make sure you got it sized right. Make sure you got your duct per the installation instructions. Take it up through the roof or through the sidewall. Insulate it if it's in a unconditioned space. So once it comes out of insulation and it's unconditioned in an attic or crawl space, make sure to insulate it. Strap it properly. Inspectors don't like to see that pipe just hanging there, that duct hanging there, and then you put your drywall up, and so then the drywall's holding it up. Just strap it off. Put a couple straps on there to hold it up so that if you ever take the drywall down or something happens, it's set where it should be. So now let's dive into whole house fans. So what is a whole house fan? Well, a whole house fan is something that's, like I just kind of mentioned, it's sucking air out, and that way it's bringing fresh air in through whatever crevices it can find, because it has to equalize. So if you're pushing out, it's got to find a way to pull it in, and that just keeps your house with fresh air in it. And it is a requirement. And if you're dealing with kind of a remodel type situation and you've never had one, maybe not a big deal. If you are finishing your whole basement, an inspector might ask you to put one in, and if they do, you kind of have a general idea where to put it, how to do it, what's needed. And so it really just comes down to, is it, again, intermediate or continuous, right? There for a while, they were putting in a lot of continuous ones. When I was building new houses, I put in a continuous whole house fan. So it's running all the time. Normally, they put it in the laundry room, and it just kind of runs at a real low rate all the time. There for a while, we were putting in intermediate ones that were set on a timer. They'd run for like 4 hours, or they'd run for an hour every few hours, and they just turn on automatically with a switch override. So if you walk in your laundry room, it's not running, but it's moist in there, you can flip it on, it'll run, turn it off, and then the timer kicks back on again. The last house that I built, we did an intermediate one, and I just set it to kind of run at night. I know it's supposed to run a little bit more than that, but we're a pretty active family, and since I had control of it, I set it the way that I want it to. As an inspector, I just need to make sure that you have the proper installation materials there. So if you're intermediate, you need to make sure that it's there and set. What you do after we leave is up to you. If you're active, maybe you just don't need it running as much, because if it's running, it's sucking your heat out or it's sucking your cool out. But you don't want to get in a situation where you get stagnant air in your house. So keep that in mind. Let's hop into some of the code on it. Here is, so this would be continuous whole house mechanical ventilation system airflow rate requirements. So here they're talking about bedrooms, talking about how big the house is, and they're telling you what the CFM you need. So 4 to 5 bedroom house, that's 3,000 square feet, needs a 75 CFM fan. Get into the intermediate whole house mechanical fan, then it starts getting into factors of if it's running 50% of the time, then you double it by 2. But then down here it says that it's up for interpolation, determined by interpolation. So if you're running intermediate, I would just check with your inspector and just say, hey, I'm going to put in a whole house fan. I'm going to have it on a timer. What do you guys require? And they're going to tell you what they require, and then you just put that in. Then you're not dealing with putting in one that doesn't have enough in it. Or if you're just, you can't get a hold of anybody and you're worried about it, just try to get one that's like over 120 CFM, put a timer on it, and you should be good to go. As an inspector, I've never really had issues with that. But I would hate for you to get stuck where you put it all in and then an inspector said, it's not big enough. Because you want to just do it right the first time and move on, right? So whole house mechanical ventilation. The whole house ventilation system shall consist of one or more supply or exhaust fans or a combination of such and associated ducts and controls. Local exhaust or supply fans are permitted to serve as such a system. Outdoor air ducts connected to the return side of the air handle shall be considered as providing supply ventilation. So that was kind of like I was saying, if you're required to bring in fresh air or exhaust, if it's hooked to your furnace, and every time your furnace comes on or brings in fresh air, you've met that requirement. You don't need this fan type thing. Otherwise, you would need, like it says in there, one or both of the supply or exhaust, in which a lot of people put in the whole house ventilation fan, which just exhausts. If you notice, let me go back here. You notice right here, it says minimum requires local exhaust rates for 1 and 2 family dwellings. There's nothing in here about laundry rooms. There was an older code, but they for some reason took it out, or something happened. Maybe there was a typo, but they took it out. So technically you don't have to, at least where we're at, you don't have to put in a fan in your laundry room. Now, different states might call it differently, but per this code, 2018, table M1505.4.4, there's nothing in here that we can find that tells us that you have to put in a fan in your laundry room anymore. But most people put it in anyways, and they use that for their whole house fan. Here's where it talks about the whole house mechanical ventilation system is permitted to operate intermittently, kind of per that chart, where the system has controls that enable operation of not less than 25% for each 4-hour segment. So, I mean, that's an hour every 4 hours. Again, like I said, if you have that control and you can set it, I set it to run at night, so then I don't have to hear it. If it starts rattling or something as they get older, I just don't want to listen to it, and I don't want it on running in my laundry room unless I'm doing laundry, and then I just flip the switch on. So again, that's up to you and your inspector in your local area. Just if you need to do it, make sure you follow the requirement. The ducting is going to be the same as another fan, right? It can be flex, it can be solid duct. It's sized per the fan that you bought, per the installation instructions. It's going to terminate outside, all the same requirements. So let's look at some pictures. So here would be a picture of this is it rough in. So they haven't actually put the guts of the fan in yet. They just put the box, and then you can see they've got flex duct. They're running up through. Now you can see this is not insulated, but they did tape the seams, right? So they screwed it and then they taped it. And now attic insulation is going to go up over the top of all this section that you see right here. So it would meet the requirement of being insulated in an unconditioned space. So the same fan, looking at it from a different angle, but you can see right over here, you can see where they start to insulate it. As it starts to go up, they wrap it with insulation. They have not necessarily strapped it, but it's also not hanging down. It's sitting on top of members that are not drywall. If this was hanging, I would tell you that you should put some straps in there and make sure that it's strapped off. Here's another fan. So this last one right here went up through the roof, right? It terminated out through the roof. This particular fan went out what they call sidewall. So just went out the exterior wall. They have it insulated even though they don't necessarily need to. And it's just a quick jot right out the wall. No big deal. They've got the fan and probably the fan unit in there. And so they protected it as they go through rough-in. Here is what like a fan would look like. Here's the UL listing on it. And this one is Energy Star. So it meets all your requirements for install. You go put it in after everything's done through drywall. Once you're all painted, you can go put your guts in if you want. You can pre-put it in like they did on that other picture and just protect it. You should be good to go. Here would be the example of it all finished up. And here's the grate that goes over the top of it. Again, nothing special. It could look exactly the same in your laundry room for a whole house fan. Maybe the fan's just bigger. So maybe the duct needs to be a little bigger. Instead of a 3-inch, maybe you need 4-inch. Or instead of 4, maybe you need 6. Here's the exhaust. So this would just be a termination on a sidewall where it just has the little flappers on it. When it turns on, it opens up. But then when it's closed, it keeps birds and critters from getting in there. I also went to the internet and just kind of Googled. Right here would be exhaust in-wall duct. But it kind of gave me some terminations. So I've seen like this type of stuff on the outside of a wall. I've seen these types of terminations on a roof, you know, more plastic type ones. Just make sure whatever you choose for your termination outside your house, that it's 3 feet from openings, and you know, that it's just an approved termination. Don't get anything that would stop movement of air or buildup of anything in there. You wouldn't want anything like that. So that should cover whole house fans and bath fans. Again, pretty simple stuff. Just follow your installation instructions, 50 CFM or more. Screw it off, tape it off, insulate it. Should be good to go.